Hi there, everyone. Welcome to STEM Lockdown Digital School. This is grade 12 IT, and I am Lalani Lagransi, your presenter. We are still busy with the final of 2018. I actually saw a document yesterday that shows us that the education.gov website is 0 rated. That means that you can download all those files for free, so it won't use any data. So please make sure that you go and download as many past papers as you can. It's going to cost you nothing, but it's going to help you greatly in your future. So this is now typically our harder question. So question 4 up to 2018, and then question 3 of all the other papers up to final of 2008 that's available on the website is the question that you really need to practice, because it's just applying skills that you already know. So I hope you guys have tried this question. And in this question, if you used first principle coding, you should actually be fine. Your program should score you full marks, but I need you to watch and make sure that you are using first principles. Things like an exit inside of a loop and those kind of things are not allowed. So this is actually a question that you should have been able to do at the end of last year, because it is only showing us, it's only asking us to use a one-dimensional array. So here is I actually wanted to go up first. I moved down earlier on when I was looking at this paper again. So what's important is the arrays that has been given to us. There's two constant arrays. Now, the thing with a constant array is it's given values, but those values can't change. Remember, a constant can't stand on the left of an assignment statement. So what array days is containing is the days of the week. Now, while I continue to explain, you guys tell me if they didn't give this, what would be, it's just one line. There's an array, a constant array declared for you by the developers of Delphi. I want to see how many of you guys know that. So it's used almost like a function, but it's actually a constant array declared. What could you have used if they didn't give you this to very quickly display this without looping, without having a case statement or any long-winded way? There's one single line. So I hope one of you guys get it. I'll tell you guys later, but please send me your answer in the chat. So then we have this array temp customers that holds 30 items. And they have these numbers with the number of customers per day in there. And then there is a variable declared array customer. So this array can change, and it's the values from 1 to 31, and they will hold integer values. Then they've given us the text file, and they always give us a layout of the text file. So there's a date and a hash, and then the number of customers. And then they also give us some examples here. Now, in this, it was important to note that some of the dates will have a 1 here, and some will have some will have a single digit, and some will have a double digit. So you couldn't hard code getting hold of that first part there. You had to use your pos with your hash here that you'll see later. And then they often explain to us what all of this means in the text file. Now, this note here is important. First of all, we know we're not allowed to change provided code. We're also not allowed to add two objects on our form. If we're not happy with what there is, we need to make sure that we find another way, because then we're making a mistake somewhere. So you can't add objects to your form. You can't change them as well. But then what's very important is this is the question that could score you marks for good programming techniques, like indenting, leaving a line open, leaving a line open. Sorry, I'm just reading the chat here. Skulk, you're on the right track, that could help us, but it's not the right way. I'm going to hope one of you guys can find the answer of how to display the days, names of the days of the week. So apply good programming techniques by putting those little abbreviations like I for integer and B for Boolean and S for string in front of your variable names. Give them good names. It also helps you to code throughout the paper, not just here. Yeah, and indent and leave some lines open. And then the next part here says modular design. So modular design means that we are going to create our own procedures and functions. But the question does not ask you to create those procedures and functions. It's up to you to decide what is it that you want to create. What is going to be duplicated? What processing am I going to do more than once? What could benefit me? Now, this is your 10 minutes reading time. If you have practiced question 1 to 3 a lot, then you should read question 4 in your final exam in those 10 minutes. Not to do it first, but to get an idea of the question and to start solve it in your mind and have a look at things like what is asked in 4.1 that I also need in 4.2, because that would probably be then where you might need a procedure or function. Now, this question actually didn't lend itself to having a modular design, but since they said there's a modular design, I did create a procedure. And I created a procedure for this first part and then just called it in 4.1. It says the user must select the month from the combo box, and then you're going to read from that text file. Now, the month is stored in the combo box, and I want to extract the month from the combo box and then only find that month's customers and put it from the temp customer array, that was your constant array, and put it in array customers. So if I pick February, only February will be sitting in array customers. So that's what we're doing in here. I'm going to go to my Delphi code so that you guys can see that. So always, I know it didn't say test if the file exists, but remember I've told you before, this is that one little thing that you have to do without being asked. So always test if the file exists, display a message and exit. You can use try accept as well, but the memo of the grade 12 finals actually look like this. So just use an if. You're allowed an exit inside of an if, you're just not allowed an exit inside of a loop. So I have this global counter set to 0. It could have been local in this case as well. Oh no, wait, no, I'm lying, because it depends on how many days of the month it has. So yes, it had to be global. We're initializing it to 0. We're getting the input from the user. Please take note of this code, because if you don't know this code, you had to write a case statement with 12 months of the year. I mean, that's just ridiculous. So you're wasting time on a case statement. Just study this line of code. When we're getting input from either combo box, radio group, or list box, we have the name of the object dot items, then square brackets, name of the items of the combo box, then item index. And in this way, I'm extracting the name of the month that the user selected. Then I have my normal assign and reset file. Remember, when we're reading from a file, it's reset. So when we are writing to a file, we use we will use rewrite or append. So I'm just quickly looking at a question here. Can we use .text? So theoretically, you can use .text. But now the reason I'm showing, so this up to now actually has been awarded marks. But the text property is actually different from your items. You have a property. If I click here on the combo box, you will see that in your object inspector here on the left, there is a text property. So I can change this, choose a month. This is actually not one of my items. Oh, it wouldn't allow me to. I guess they changed some settings for us on the paper, but if I added here the text property to a combo box, it's actually a message to the user. So for a combo box up to now, they have given you marks for using this code. But you must remember your radio group doesn't have a text property and you can't use its caption because that's not one of the items that they selected. The difference now between your text property and your items is the text will have a value, let's say choose a month. If the person has not selected anything from my combo box, it will still be choose a month. If I have chosen a value from as a user, I've clicked on one of the months, that item then becomes my text property. So it's, if they haven't selected anything, it's not what they click. Well, they haven't clicked on something and you'll have some random value there in the text property. So theoretically, it's incorrect. Up to now, they've marked it correctly, but they could decide one year, this is not right. We're not going to give you marks for that. And then, but the final reason is really that if they give you a radio group, you don't have a text property, you need to use the same code here. So you might as well study that, because then you know this for radio groups as well, and you just apply them to both. So yes, that's the story about .text. Remember, they don't mark things the same every year. One year they accept .text, next year they'll say, oh no, we're not accepting .text again. That's all happens at the end of the year, after the exam was written and everyone comes together to discuss the memo. So to be safe, rather use this code. So we have assign file and reset file, and then marks were only added for this part here. I always add my second condition here to, this is saying, while my count is less than 31. Remember, our array customers was declared as an array of 1 to 31. If I go to 32, my program will crash. And one year what they did is they made the text file longer than the array declared. So if you didn't have this extra line of code here, your program continued to crash. So that's why it's better to add that line of code. One year there's marks for it. The next year, there isn't marks for it. Okay, so Nkosi says, are we doing revision for text files? Or I'm not sure if you're asking for the future. Would you like me to do revision of arrays and text files? That can be done. You guys will guide me as to what you want me to teach for whatever time is remaining for us. Okay, so we have, this is revision on reading from the text file. So here we have while not end of file. Then we have our read line T file into S line. And now in my if statement, I love a pause. I often use a pause in an if statement, because what I'm doing is I'm testing if the month that the user entered exists in S line. So if it finds the month, January or February, if it finds Feb in here, my pos will return a value greater than 0. If it's not in there, the pos will return a 0. So I often use a pos to find strings within other strings, and it saves me some time. Because now that I know, let's say they selected February, I know that when I get to this part of the code, I'm dealing with February and I don't need to worry about the rest. So yeah, very important, you had to increment your counter inside of this if. Remember this, if you go and read the paper there at the top, I didn't read it today to you guys, but it says that the text file has 365 lines of code. So therefore, if I would if I had incorrectly added my ink I count here, it means that this is going to go to 365. I can't now add even the number 32 to my array customers and my program will crash. So the placing of your ink I count is extremely important to do it in the right place. So here what we needed to do is we need to we only increment the counter if I am in the month that the user selected. So I'll continue to read through my whole text file, but I will only stop if I will only increment my counter if it is the month that I want to store in array customers. And that's what I'm doing here. So this is the lines of text files. I've copied it out here for you. And I suggest that you do the same. Even if it's just one line of the text file, just copy and paste it inside of your while. Leave it there as a comment. We'll just ignore it when we're marking it. And to have a look at what I'm doing here, some learners, what they did is they said, okay, we're going to delete the front part, and they counted the number of characters there, and they didn't accommodate for what if it was 2 digits, or they accommodate for the 2 digits, but they didn't accommodate for the 1 digit. So the only solution to this was really to find the position of your hash in S line, and then delete S line from 1 to IPOS, and then add that number, because now remember, let's just copy out one of these. Once I've deleted this, in S line, I'll be left with just the 69 or the 218 or the 127. And all I'm doing now is, this is S line. There's no pos, there's nothing to find. There's no hash or comma or anything to find. All I have to do is take that string and convert it into an integer using string to int and put it in array customers I count. And this had to be inside of your begin and end. If you've done this, go and check yourself now. Did you add that close file? Because again, this program would work perfectly without the close file, but if there's marks allocated, you would lose it. And there are often marks allocated for a close file. I'm just quickly reading Scott's question. So we will have to have access to text files, but never to database. Yes, you will. Well, I can't say always. Maybe one day they decide to lock the text file. What they will do, though, is they will always give you the example of the text file, but they've never locked it before. So I think you can be sure to be able, you will be able to open the text file. Just one thing to take note of. If you decide, okay, I'm going to open the text file, I'm going to copy a line out and I'm going to put it in here. It's really a good suggestion because you can see what you're working with without having to open your text file all the time. Just make sure you close your text file again, because if you try to write to it, this was not part of this question, but in another one it would be. If I try to write to my text file and it's still open, I'm going to get an error. And then you guys sit and you waste time looking at your code and back at the ranches just because you guys still have it open. You've opened the file. So just make sure that you close it when you are done with it. Okay, so that is question 4.1. So 14 marks. You can just go back here. There's 14 marks. And, oh, we've missed a little bit. So they always very sneakily put a question after a screenshot. It says here, a message must be displayed to indicate that the array has been populated successfully. And I think I've said this before, but a lot of learners that just lose one of the 150 marks, so they get 149 out of 150, is because they didn't do this. Something like displaying a message. I'm just going to jump back to Delphi again. This was now my procedure. So this part here at the top, this is where I call my procedure, and there is my show message. So that is that last mark for displaying the message. Okay, so now we get to the harder part. Here we go to the display button. And in here, they say we're going to use the combo box that they selected for the day of the for the first day of the month. So they are going to pick a month, a day that your month should start on. Similar, I'm not sure if you guys can see my calendar if I open it here on my system tray, But similar to what, like April started here, if I look at my date here, the 1st of April was on a Wednesday. Funny enough, that was when we started these lessons as well. So they are going to pick for this year, for April, they're going to pick Wednesday. And then you have to produce this calendar. So the important thing here was to break this question up into different parts. And I'm going to show you how I've done that. So use the selected day, and now you're going to populate your calendar. And then it's the number of customers who visited the restaurant for each day must be displayed then in the round brackets. There were marks allocated for just having the round brackets. Even if you didn't get the right output, that you had brackets inside of a rich edit, you got those marks. So make sure you do everything that you can, even if it's not working. Okay. So what I want to show you before I go to my solution, this is how I broke my question up into parts. The first is to get these empty spaces here. These were produced with #9. You can see there's nice, neat columns. So you already know your output needs #9s, but you need to add a certain amount of empty spaces before you start displaying your array. Now, if you look at selecting Friday, I would need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 open spaces, and only on the 5th one will I start displaying. So when I'm selecting from my combo box, if you guys look at your program, you'll see that Sunday is day 1. So that is item index 0. So Friday would be item index 5. And I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 empty spaces. So you can see how they relate. I have done a different type of question, or a different type of solution here. I'm going to show you guys now. I didn't use my item index, but you'll understand what I'm doing now. So first bit is the empty lines. Second part is then displaying in my rich edit and making sure that I display at the end of a line when my day is 7 here. So then again, something needs to be initialized, some variable needs to be initialized, and then I continue to build a string and I display again when the day is 7, and I do the same for all the lines. So this is the second part that I'm going to do. And then the last part is displaying this last bit here, because my day is not going to reach 7 here. So remember, it has to work for different output, whether they're clicking on Wednesday or Friday. Okay, now let's quickly have a look. I'm going to show you my Delphi code. The top part here was the provided code. So they created the headings for us using our array days, which I don't have the correct answer for yet, but I'll show you guys at the end. And the question then says, type your code here. Please make sure you code below this so that your question doesn't form part of the given code. It's easier for the markers to see, oh, here we go, here's your code. Now, this wasn't needed. What I did is I added populated array here so that I didn't have to click on button 1 when I'm testing. I can just select my options, click on button 2 to test 4.2. So this was really not needed. Here I'm getting the input from the user for the number of days. And the days is the item index plus 1. So iday, if it's Sunday, the item index is 0, and I'm making the day 1 because it's day 1 of my calendar. If they selected Friday, like an example of output, Friday is going to be 5, and then I'm going to change my iday to 6. So iday is now holding the value on which I want to start. I want to start displaying on 1. Now what I'm doing here in my output is I'm creating my empty spaces. So remember, I said to you guys, for Friday, we needed 5 empty spaces. It is day 6, but I want to display 5 empty spaces. So I'm just going to use iday here -1, or you could have used your item index in here. So that will create now, remember to initialize the string. This is creating those first empty spaces for me before day 1 is displayed. So initialize, and I'm building a string of #9s. So now I am at the position where I want to start with, let's say we picked Friday. Friday is now we're at the correct position to display day 1, starting this month on Friday. So this is my second part, displaying the arrays. You'll see I'm going to use iday now. So what I'm doing here is I am continue to building on that string. So for that first line, you have the empty spaces. And now I continue to that, and I'm displaying the day of the month. That's my K, corresponds here with my 1 to I count. Remember, I count holds the number of items in my array. So if it was February, it would be 28 or 29, depending on which year it was. And then I add my brackets, and there were specific marks, as I said, for the brackets. And then you add your array customers using your into string with a #9 at the end. Now here, what I'm doing is I'm testing if I'm at the end of a line in my reach edit. So I'm testing if the day is 7. In other words, have I reached Saturday? Have I displayed Saturday? If I have, then I set idays back to 0, and I'm displaying this output, S output. Now what I'm doing is I'm initializing S output again. So your other option here was to add a #10 and not initialize again, and then just only display at the end. So that would also be correct. But here what I'm doing is I'm displaying my string, clearing my output again, incrementing my day to say, okay, I'm going to add day 1 now, and then looping again here and adding the next line. So these would be now adding your full lines. Now we get to the last part. And you must remember now, the problem with the last line was my iday would not have reached 7. If you look at the screenshots, I hope you guys have the paper in front of you. If you look at your screenshot, you're going to see that that last week have not been filled, because, for example, we are today on the 30th of April. It's the last day of the month, but it's only Thursday. So in other words, our calendar will show empty spaces for Friday to Sunday, or Friday to Saturday. Our calendar started on Sunday. So it's not going to output those last lines because my day is not 7. But it's actually very easy. What is in S output once this loop is done is that last bit of line of code, because you've emptied it and you've added it. You just haven't displayed it. So all you need to do is display that last line of code outside of your loop. And that was as simple as that. So I don't know if you guys have any questions. I have an alternative solution here, also using mod. So the top bit looks the same, and I'm using instead of, so I'm building a string with a #10, and I'm seeing if the mod of 7 is the iday mod 7 is 0. That means is the remainder 0 when I divide by 7. So that means iday is a multiple of 7, and I should be adding a #10. And then I increment my day. So I don't have to reset my day. And because I'm adding the #10, I don't have to initialize my string again. So therefore, I'm displaying here at the bottom of, outside of my loop, I'm displaying S output once off. So that is another option. What I want to do is, I actually had another plan for you guys, but it feels like maybe you guys need some, I'm just going to take you here to my book, and then I'm going to show you some tables here at the back. Okay. Let's first go to, I have a table here. Sorry for all the scrolling, but I want to get to the date functions. This is not a function. These are actually, well, that one is a function, but long month names, short month names, long day names, and short day names, those are actually arrays declared for you by the developers of Delphi that contains the names of the month or the names of the days. And that's what I wanted at the beginning. I said to you guys, if they didn't give you that array with the days of the week, what could you use? And this is what you could use. So you use these functions or these arrays, you use as a normal array. Long month names, if you give it a value k, and you give it a value from 1 to 12, because there are 12 months, if you give it any other value, you're going to get an access violation. And it will display for you the name of the month. So if I look at long month names, and remember, I mean, you guys are, I think, advanced enough to know that this will not be hard code. This will probably be a variable. But if you replace that with a variable, it's going to return for you February. So you can very easily loop. If you try, and I want you guys to try this afternoon, go and loop from 1 to 12, use your for loop, which is usually K, in here, and go and display long month names and short month names. That's the abbreviation of the month. So as the K changes from 1 to 12, you're displaying the names of the month. So this is quite handy to know about. Then we have long day names and short day names. So what we have here is the numbers 1 to 7, because we only have 7 days. Again, it's an array, so it would need square brackets. And if it's 1, it will return Sunday, the full name. So 1, you just have to be aware of the fact that 1 is Sunday. And then short day names will give you the abbreviation. So 2 will be Mun, and then Saturday will be 7, sorry, can't count today. So Sunday is 1 and Saturday is 7. I'm just reading a question here. Do we have to add something in our code to use, or are these constants already available? They're already available. So you don't even have to use date utils. They will be there for you to use. The ones here at the bottom, I'm going to, every day when we have some extra time and we have a few minutes extra, I'll go through some functions here with you guys, just to recap on what it is that is available for you to use. And let's just stick quickly to the day names. So I said to you, what we need here is an integer number 1 to 7. But there is a way of getting that number. And the way we use it is, Scott Willem had an idea there. You just needed round brackets. There's another function here called day of week. But you mustn't confuse this with day of. So let's just first talk about what's the difference between day of and day of week. Day of today, if I use today's date, is 30. So the 30th of April. So that's day of. Day of week, since it is Thursday, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're on the 5th day of the week if we started counting on Sunday as day 1. So day of week and long day names and short day names actually go well together. If you store this, so it produces well, there's so many things to say here. Day of week as an argument needs a date data type. So you can't just put anything in there. Maybe input from the date time picker, maybe date as in today's date, the function today's date. Maybe you have a date entered as a string and you just string to date it, but it needs a date data type, and the return data type of day of week is an integer. So I would go here, iDay is assigned to day of week date, and now I have the day number. Then the next part here would be iDay. I can then use in the square brackets here. So instead of the K here, I can use I day. And that will then for today. So let's use the 30th of April 2020, because you know every 30th of April of every year is not on the same day of the week. So we're taking today. I will get a 6 out of day of week. Then I can use that 6 in here, and this will return Thursday for me. Or short day names will return Friday for me. I see Sean ask if it's possible to download my book. Yes, it is possible. If you just Google, I'm going to type for you, the Etsy store, and you search for Dandelion with a binary code 10 there. You will find my 3 titles, grade 10, 11, and 12 there. So you're welcome. It's available as an ebook. Printing and delivery is at the moment a problem. But yeah, it's as soon as we can print and deliver, there would be availability again for that. I also have my website for you guys on my PowerPoint, so you can have a look there if you want to order a printed copy. Okay, so, but I've almost shown you guys everything in here. So here we go. Other functions that we can use. We have is leap year. That returns a true or a false. So is leap year returns a Boolean value, and a leap year for when we are alive, it is, yes, a year that would be divided by 4. But if you go and Google what a leap year actually is, it's not that simple as dividing the year by 4 and checking if the remainder is 0 by using your mod. There's actually way more to it. So what you guys, if you have to write this code, it's actually quite fun to write an is leap year function, but there's more to just dividing by 4. It's all about if the year ends on 00, then we have to do this, and if this, then that. But is leap year function you can use in an if statement to test if, and then the K there has to be a year. So an integer number as a year. Okay, so I've spoken about those. Then we have current year, which would be the same as year of today's date. So for today, it would be, well, for this year, it will be 2020. And then hopefully you guys all know data string. This is the same in all 3 of my books at the end. So this is really for the grade 10s. Hopefully by now you guys can all data string. Then these functions here, you have to, as you would add math at the top in the uses, you need to now add date utils to make use of these functions. So the one here is days in a month. And then take note, there's days in a month and there's days in months. And the difference between the 2 of them is what they need as arguments, even though they return the same answer for us. So we have days in a month. And if I send days in a month needs 2 integers, the year first and then the month second. And it returns for me the number of days in a month. So that is an integer number. Then I have days in month that does the same thing, gives me the number of days of that month, but it needs a date data type. Then there's a function called isValidDate. And here it needs, so it returns a Boolean value. Is the date that I'm feeding it valid or invalid? Particularly useful, you know, for February. But for any month, if they say April has 30 days, then it's invalid. So if you want to incorporate that maybe in your PAT when they're entering a date, that could work. But on the other hand, for the PAT, I would rather use a date time picker when the person selects a date, because you need to have good objects for your input for your PAT. Okay, so there is valid date, and it returns a true or a false if the date is valid. Just make sure that they are integers and that you put them in the right order, year, month, and day. Then we have year of, month of, and day of. That just extracts what it says. So the year of a date, the month of a date, the day of a date. And then these 2 are also quite handy, years between and days between. It calculates the difference between 2 dates correctly. So in the one, you could possibly have a I'm looking here on the right, the date function, so to extract today's date, and then D date, which could be input from a datetime picker or any other form, but D date had to be stored at a T date data type. And it calculates then the difference between those 2 days accurately. You must remember, if you just take year of today minus year of the year you were born, it might not count. It depends on what day of the year we are on, whether it's going to calculate your age correctly. For example, my birthday is in October. If I calculate my birthday today, it's going to put me as 1 year older, the age I will be after October. Whereas years between takes into consideration whether this date has passed yet or not. And then days between does the same. Very handy. You don't have to worry about which one goes first. So you don't have to put date first. You can put these anywhere around. It has a function ABS, which is one of the other tables, also included in that. So if it does get a negative answer, it will then change it to a positive value, the absolute value. So I just want to, please, I know some people start exiting when we finalizing this, but I don't want you to exit yet because I have found out a few things for you guys. So that was question 4. I saw that the education.gov.za is 0 rated. In other words, if you go on there and download past papers, it's not going to cost you anything in terms of data. And I know some of your friends are struggling with data and they can't access these Zoom lessons due to, not having enough data. Please, will you tell them that they can go to, there's the education.gov.za website and download past papers and do as many as they can. Then another thing is, you guys must please not think that your syllabus for IT particularly will be changing for the end of this year. I have confirmation your syllabus is going to stay the same. We are not going to reduce it. We're not going to reduce your PAT. We're not going to reduce your syllabus. You're still going to write about everything. So it's time for you guys to really do your work. Maybe you can find out from the other subjects what they have planned. But I have a feeling for grade 12s, there will be no reduction on curriculum for any subject, because you have to pass your grade 12 year as any other grade 12 learner did in previous years and to apply for universities. Universities are still teaching, they're still making space for you guys to attend next year. So please make sure that you apply and please make sure that you guys work really, really hard. Our last lesson, I don't know when our last lesson would be. So, okay. So I'm just reading the questions here. Skalka, I suggest you watch the video again. It is live on YouTube. So just go and watch that last bit of 4.2 again. And tomorrow, log in at about 10:02 and ask me your questions before our lesson starts and we can have a look. So I don't know when our last lesson is. I have to return when the teachers return. If I have to return on Monday, I will make a plan to at least teach you guys on Monday and Tuesday. If grade 12s are going back on Wednesday, which we hopefully will know today at 4:30, then I guess that we won't have lessons anymore. Maybe I will start a lesson with you guys on Saturdays, whether it's with Africa Team gigs or not. I'm trying to get, confirmation from them as well that maybe there is a future plan for you guys. So let's have a look and we'll chat again definitely on Monday. There's no lesson tomorrow. And maybe I'll have better confirmation for you guys on Monday at 11 o'clock. Link is going to stay the same. And then we can maybe have more information to be able to talk about our future together. I've really enjoyed having you guys here. So please don't go yet. I also need you guys there's my website for those who need to get hold of it. It's just tinyurl/Dandelion Delphi with the 1 and the 0 as binary code. I am going to start going through the exemplar of 2018, question 1. You can also download it from the gov.gov site, education.gov. And an exemplar means an example of what to expect. So we would be very stupid not to do the example. And it's actually a very good example. So please, before Monday, can you try and do your exemplar 2018? And also, can you please try and fix your question 4.2 and ask me some questions on Monday if you are struggling. Let's have a look if I can help you guys. It's a little hard using the chat, but let's see how I can assist you guys. Maybe you can attach a file for me. I see there is an option. I don't know if you guys are able to. So thank you very much for watching Grade 12 IT. This is STEM Lockdown Digital School. Please follow Africa Teen Gigs on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And you will find these YouTubes available on Africa Teen Gigs. All my YouTubes should be available there for you from the 1st of April, posted on the site. It is under playlist, so you will find your Grade 12 IT playlist there. And hope to see you guys then on Monday. Take care. Bye.